Chapter 2. Putting, a National Crisis. The one and only time I used trigonometry was in a sentence about 30 years ago. It was in response to a question from one of my 3 children about whether I had ever failed a subject in high school. The Board of Education of the great state of New York knew damn well I would, in all likelihood, need to know the basics of a good putting stroke as I progressed into society. But no. They hired some dickhead with a pocket protector to teach me the cosines, tangents, and the ever-so-exciting interpolation. If those same hours could have been filled with the fundamentals of putting, I am convinced I'd be a better person today. I know I'd have more money. I am now blessed with 2 young grandchildren who have been given a proportionate amount of putting instruction, along with potty training and the shoelace thing. I cannot let the New York educators off the hook altogether. But there existed yet another problem at the time. When the networks replay old footage of televised golf in the 50s, you will see the likes of Palmer, Player, and Lima with locked knees and a 3-foot backswing for a 15-foot putt. The greens measured about 7 or 8 on the stimp meter, compared to 11 or 12 today. They were only concerned with break and getting the ball to the hole and not so much with style. As opposed to Faxon and Love, the great players of that era were not good role models for the proper stroke as we know it today. It only stands to reason that all my playing partners from that generation, myself included, are lousy putters. Some are really lousy. Some are just bad. But we all suck. Gimme, gimme, gimme. If a tree falls in the forest and there is no one there to, etc., if you stroke a gimme putt and miss it, was it a gimme? Please. This is the heart of the crisis. If I lay out $60 or $80 to play a round of golf and I record a round of 87, I will have struck the fucking ball 87 times, as opposed to having struck it 69 times and picked it up before the hole was over for the balance. I do not enjoy missing 5-footers. No one does. But, and bear with me here, short putts are our only chance to be on the same skill level as the top players in the world. The best of the best get more satisfaction and pleasure from holing 5- and 6-footers than they do from knocking a 7-iron to 8 feet below the hole. The 8-footer that the well-struck 7-iron has presented him with is an opportunity only, and there is a challenge ahead. On the other hand, the drained 5- or 6-footer has ended the hole. The top 5 finishers in a PGA Tour event will all have one statistic in common. They will all be close to the lead in the fewest total putts, or putts per greens in regulation. How do you know if you can make them if you don't putt them? In match play, the conceded putt is not a gimme. Rather, it is what it is, and that is a concession of the next stroke based on the status of the hole, your skills, your opponent's skills, and or all of the above. The gimme is confined to stroke play, which ironically does not allow for such a procedure. Put simply, if you are not involved in match play, then you are involved in stroke play, and there are no concessions. If you are sweeping away gimmies, then you are in violation of the rules. But of much greater importance, you are only hurting yourself and your own golf game. Earlier in the chapter on the rules and how they are bent by all of us, I put in a short disclaimer as to my not wanting to sound as if I were in a pulpit. I employ that disclaimer here once again. Take the following premise and see if it does not put everything into the proper perspective. Assume that much of your golf does not involve any serious gambling. You play for the enjoyment of the game, and you are content with in-the-leather kickbacks for all concerned. What you are doing is affecting your overall putting. Your attitude with a putt of 30 or 40 feet is one that reflects the distance you need to be from the hole in order for someone to kick it back. If you know, on the other hand, you are going to be required to putt the next one in the event that the first one does not drop, your mental approach to the 30 or 40-footer will then change for the better. That, I contend, is a good thing. It's a good thing for more than one reason. First, it will make you concentrate. Second, you will drain a few long ones. And third, the previously known 3-foot gimme will soon become 9 inches. Even I can make those. I mentioned earlier how the conceded putt in match play was often part of a strategy and not always a foregone courtesy. Back in the late 60s, I had occasion to play in a qualifier for the New York State Amateur. I had absolutely no business being there, but hey, I paid my $5 entry fee. Yes, $5. And it was a chance to play 18 holes at one of Westchester County's plush private clubs. 36 holes if I could make the morning cut. There were at least 2 Harmon brothers in the field and a number of other names that confirmed my feeling I was somewhere I should not be. I survived the cut on the number, which I think was 76 or 77, and proceeded to the first tee for round 2 with a pompous attitude. I obviously thought, as usual, that the first round coulda been a 69. Note there were no 69s in my history, nor any rounds that could have been. I gave them a smooth 81 in the afternoon and was in the process of slamming the trunk of my car when I heard a voice from the distance. "Yo, Murph!" it rang. Not sure anyone actually said yo back then. "Don't put the bag away." It was Joe Cullen yelling at me from 60 feet away. Joe was a regular from a public facility down the road and had also just given it a whirl that day, finishing an hour before me. Joe's amateur status was up for debate, inasmuch as someone, usually an opponent, was paying him each and every time he teed it up. About 10 years my senior, Joe was borderline legendary for his talents as a hustler and would generally play anyone for any amount at any time, if the shots were right. I sensibly considered Joe as out of my league, even though we could have probably scored the same for any given round. It should come as no great surprise to many of you that, to the seasoned golf hustler, scoring and/or winning matches is not relevant. The match is over on the first tee, and then it remains in the hands of people like Joe to orchestrate the events to their foregone conclusion. I had been on his side of a 4-ball match once or twice and had reaped the rewards with a feigned innocence. That I would have found myself in any game against him would not have been a possibility. "We got a 9-hole match in 5 minutes. Put your spikes back on," he demanded. "Joe," I pleaded, "it's 5:30. I got $12. What match?" He quickly explained how he had run into 2 college kids with a bunch of money who had missed the morning cut and were in love with their respective games. "They've got pockets full of dead presidents and can't play a lick. Nick, the caddy master, knows them, and we're set to go on number 1 right now." "Joe," I continued pleading, "I got 12 stinking bucks, and my kids are going to need lunch money in the morning." "I got it covered," he barked with father-like authority. "You just play." Joe was a salesman of liquor, a commodity he also consumed in no small amount. I had a moment of anxiety with regard to his present condition, but quickly realized he had been on the golf course all day. Further, I knew drunk when I saw drunk, and I was looking at Joe the player, not Joe the drunk. "How much we playing for?" I asked in an almost sobbing whisper. "None of your fucking business," he replied rather nicely. We arrived at the first tee box. "Hey guys, this is Murph. Murph, this is Mike, and this is Todd," Joe said quickly. He was ready to play. It occurred to me then, at first observation, that Mike was a geek and Todd was a dork. It occurs to me now, however, that those words did not exist back then, but would soon become a part of our everyday vocabulary. Therefore, it is entirely possible I may have actually played against the original geek and dork. Mike the geek drilled it 260 center cut, as did his Ivy League dork partner, and off we went. After 4 holes, Joe and I were 1 down, and Joe had conceded a total of 5 putts to the kids that were all missable. Joe was even par, and I was 1 under at that point. What the fuck? We walked to number 5 tee. "Joe, what's with the concessions? You crazy?" "Murphy, neither one of them has had to putt anything under 4 feet. The next 5 holes will be fun." God, he was right on target. On number 5, I was in the hole with a par, and Mike, the geek, had 2.5 feet to have the hole. He took forever to replace his ball and was obviously waiting for Joe or me to say those joyous words. Me? My mouth was taped shut for the remainder of the match. Not my money. When Joe was not forthcoming with "pick it up," Mike addressed his ball. The stroke was spasmodic. I mean, serious disease poster boy spasmodic. His next stroke, had it meant anything, would have been 5 feet. We strolled to number 6 all even. They were toast. We won all 4 coming in, due in part to Joe jumping on board with 2 birdies, but further due to continued spasms on their part. As we walked off number 9 green, Todd, without hesitation, walked up and handed me 3 crisp 20s. Mike did the same to Joe. After a brief "nice match" remark, they were in the wind, never to be seen again, headed for the Sawmill River Parkway in a humongous Lincoln. The match had been for 20s with auto 2-down presses. It seems they gave Joe a 1 down on the 9th tee, which accounted for the total of 60. I don't think I need to explain all that math, but I was confused as to how 2 bets came to $60. Nobody plays in increments of $30. So there you have it, a perfect and profitable illustration of what can happen to even good players when they don't putt all the short ones. The most important aspect of what happened in that match was the unknown factor. What if Joe had not conceded anything early on and they had actually made them all? They might have buried us out of pure confidence in their strokes. We'll never know, and I really don't give a shit. I know that driving away from that course that night with 3 Jacksons nested together in my left front pocket was flat out wonderful. Moving 25 years up the line brings us to my time spent at a public facility in South Florida, where I spent 10 years performing every job the facility had to offer. The entire venture is covered in a subsequent chapter. There was a putting gimme issue, however, that jumps out and is ever so worthy of space here. Big John played each and every Sunday morning. First group out, ergo first group at the bar. More often than not, I would open the bar for his group prior to the bartender's arrival and pour some serious wild turkey shooters, just to keep them calm. Big John's group was actually happy to lose to him on a regular basis, albeit for a small amount of cash. The group was in awe of his abilities, and he appeared to have somewhat of a command over them. He was built like a 5'11" fire plug, and he could, in fact, hit the ball. While I poured the turkey on those Sunday mornings, I would always hear the number for John's score. 73, 72, 75, never a 78 or a 79, even in cold or rain. My curiosity became piqued, to say the least. In his absence, I inquired of the group as to his game and was assured he was that good. And oh no, there were no gimmies. Well, except for the really, really short ones. One Sunday morning, I grabbed a cart and headed out on the course on seemingly official business to observe the phenom for myself. Oh, he was hitting fairways and some greens in regulation. But on number 4, I watched from 2 fairways away as he hit a chip shot from a few yards off the green to what appeared to be 6 or 8 feet above the hole. He then walked to the cart, put his club away, grabbed a pencil, and started writing what one assumed was his score. The hole was over for him, and, shortly, for the rest of the group as well. They usually played in less than 3 hours, which was easy to do if you did not finish them all. I observed another few holes and learned enough to form a solid conclusion that Big John was full of shit. On one hole, he putted for a birdie from 30 feet away before his guys could remove the flag. The ball struck the stick and caromed 15 feet away off the green. I made a mental note, and later at the bar I peeked at the card only to see a birdie marked for that hole. "Played well, did you, John?" I offered. "Yeah, really good. 72, and missed some putts I could have made," was the reply. "Wow, let me look." I grabbed the card off the bar. "Whoa, you birdied the 8th?" "From 35 feet, he emphasized. "These assholes forgot to take the stick out, so it stayed out of the hole, but it was dead nuts in at a perfect speed." "Nice playing, John." The barmaid showed, and I exited, leaving them to the vast amounts of Kentucky bourbon they so badly needed to consume. It took a while, but I convinced John to take his game to a higher level by playing with the regulars some weekday at 10 in the morning. One Wednesday, much to my surprise, he showed up ready to play and ready to bet. We had 4 groups, and he played in mine. He made a few $10 games and then asked me what he and I could do. "We gotta play even, Murph, right?" "I guess, but let's play for 5s, I replied, acting the underdog. Coming up on number 9, he was 2 down on his other games and 1 down to me. I was 4 or 5 over. I proceeded to hit it in the water, so he was going to push with me. He hit his approach to 8 or 9 feet right of the hole, and the makeable putt could have gotten him even all around. He 3-jacked it. He went from getting even on all bets to being 6 bets down at $10 a pop. Then a strange thing happened. He got to his cart, looked at his paper and said, "Excuse me," and dropped a quarter in the payphone by the snack bar. After a muffled but concerned conversation with what I assume was a dial tone, he explained his sudden and unexpected business emergency. He paid up, adding a parting, "Count me in next week," and exited the premises. Next week had been a rumor. That Sunday, after a full quota of turkey, he called me over and lamented about how badly he had putted on Wednesday and how good a putter he usually was, or could be, or should be, or not. I agreed.